Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a story of my non-Jewish grandma's Holocaust story and Nazi attack. Before we continue any further, yes, we are 100% sure she is not a Jew in any way, shape, or form, or any of the people who were not Jews that suffered the Nazi attack as well in her town. When my grandma was a little girl, mind you, once again, she was not a Jew. And yes, once again, I'm going to repeat it later on, but just one more time before I continue, we are sure my grandma is not a Jew. My mom's father is a Jew, and my actual father, he's fully a Jew on his side. However, my non-Jewish, yes, we are sure grandma, this is her story. So when she was a little girl, one day they were having, I guess, like a family dinner or whatever was going on, maybe lunch, whatever, and the Nazis knock on the door. It was literally like 12 huge grown military men with AK-47 like guns. I'm sure it wasn't AK-47, but the guns seemed to be similar, like whatever you imagine a soldier would have. And they have taken my grandma from the home. And, she doesn't remember much from that, but all I just know is that she ended up waking in someone's home. She doesn't remember much from that. I'm pretty sure they experimented on her, because sometimes the way she describes the story of her Nazi attack, it seems so with the vague details and the way she describes it, I'm pretty sure they took her and experimented on her, and she survived by a miracle. By the way, she does not remember how she ended up getting home, but however, she did suffer a Nazi attack. And after that, oh, and by the way, here's another thing I learned in school, that for some reason, the Nazis, they would gather documents and they purposely were knocking on doors and purposely, they were knocking on doors and looking specifically just for Jews. That was not the case in her town. Like I said, she grew up in Russia. That was not the case for her town. The Nazis were coming in and stealing all of the children. They were knocking on everyone's doors, burning villages down. My grandma lived through hiding from bombs, villages burning down, and through hunger for years. My grandma ended up having multiple surgeries. My grandma ended up having a lot of physical and surgeries, and a lot of health issues, and a lot. She even almost had a problem conceiving, but by a miracle, she did have my mom. So other than that, what do you call it? So she also, like I said, she had multiple surgeries. She had a lot of other health issues for literally her entire life. And of course, no matter what they did to her, I want the Diaper Clinic Satanic Global Cult of Cannibals and Satanists, I want you to know, whatever you did to her, you did not break her spirit. She was still able to continue to have a life as successfully as she could, and as successfully as the Lord intended her to have. So just know that you didn't break her or her spirit, and you could all go back to hell from where you came from. And I want people to really understand something. It is very important to know and be aware that a lot of times the media will lie to you about certain situations like this. And what I mean is, a lot of times, for example, this very case of the Nazis, they say they were after only one group, but my grandma and other people in her town had very different stories and had very different, I guess, they had very different stories, and they had a very different view and a very different version of what the media was saying. So like I said, they were not going just after Jews. They were taking everybody's children, making people hide from bombs, shooting people. It didn't matter if you were a Jew. Yes, they did have a concentration camp situation for some people. And yes, we did, like, there were sections of her town and in her country and in general that, yes, they did experience the concentration camp, and some people were not killed on the spot. But there were people that they didn't make it to the concentration camp. They would knock on their door and they would just shoot people and leave, right? So there's many details and many facts that only a few people who are literally very old that may remember. So I want people to understand something. When the media tells you a certain group is just after one sort of people, usually that will be a lie, because the satanic global cult, they let everybody join and they want to get everyone who is just a regular citizen. That's who they are really after. They are after all of the citizens who are not in their cults. And like I said, the satanic cults, they will eat their own children. They will go after their own cult members. So what makes you think as a citizen they wouldn't go after you? Especially even if you're a group they say they like. Please don't fall victim to the idea that if a satanic Nazi or someone tells you you are a group they like, that is not true. They will still go after you. If they eat their own children, you would believe that just because they say they like you, that they do.